Yo, folks, it's Lee Davey again. I'm not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I'm someone who doesn't drink alcohol. I spend every waking moment, just like now, at 17:44 on a Wednesday evening, sending you a little podcast love. I want to start by saying that I've really got into the Life School podcast with Brooke Castillo. The Life Coach School podcast with Brooke Castillo. I'm going to try and get her on the podcast. It seems I've listened to like 5 or 6 of them, and it seems like Brooke has had a problem with alcohol in the past, and so if she's got the time and she wants to give back, let's hope we can get her on the podcast. It'd be fantastic if we could. I love her. I love her enthusiasm, and I love it when I'm listening to a podcast where I can't wait to listen to the next one, because I'm feeling like I'm getting such tremendous value, and it's got me thinking about things. And I hope, folks, that's how you feel when you listen to this podcast. And if you don't and you think it's shit, please send me an email at leedavypoker@gmail.com, because I get a lot of people sending me messages saying thank you. It's not true. I don't get a lot. I get a few. But I don't get people emailing me saying it's crap. So if you think it's crap, let me know. If you do get value out of it, let me know as well. I really appreciate that. I love it. So in the next couple of episodes, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be heavily influenced by Brooke, because what I tend to do is I'll listen to other people's podcasts, and as I'm kind of motoring around listening to these things, I'll have ideas about how I can provide the same content to you folks. And that is what has happened with Brooke. All right. So one of the things that Brooke talked about, I realized, is a really, really important facet of becoming someone who doesn't drink alcohol that I have not been paying enough attention to. In fact, in the 3-month Truth About Alcohol life-changing experience that we've been running for the first 7 groups, we've never even covered it. And when I've revamped the Truth About Alcohol life-changing experience and reduced it from 3 months to 2 months for group 8, I haven't included it in the revised version, but I can tell you now, after listening to Brooke and a light bulb come on, I'm definitely going to be including this more in-depth analysis and talk and discussion around this in the next version of the Truth About Alcohol life-changing experience. And what it is essentially is, I talked about this a little bit towards the end of the Neti Pot episode, all right? So I'm going to go back to that episode. And I'm going to pick on Tony a little bit here on this Strive movement. Tony, I hope you don't mind me using you as an example, mate, but I think it's a really good example, this one, right? So when Tony posts on the Strive movement, one of his concerns about being someone who doesn't drink alcohol is whether or not he will like the new Tony, right? So Tony understands that becoming someone that doesn't drink alcohol is very different than quitting alcohol. Like, the philosophy that he is learning at the Truth About Alcohol and on the Strive movement is getting him to change facets of his life that go above and beyond the simple act of drinking alcohol. He is learning to become a better husband, to become a better father, to become a better friend, to become a better leader, to become a better servant. His entire philosophy and understanding of the world is changing. His ability to take action is changing exponentially. His understanding of why he's been stuck for so long is growing. Everything about him, who he is changing, all right? And because of that, Tony thinks to himself, well, I don't know who this new guy is going to be like. Like, is he going to be boring? And there'll be a lot of you that drink alcohol, that'll be in the same situation as Tony, that think that because you drink alcohol, it makes you a really interesting person. So you might call yourself the Joker, or you might say you're the life and soul of the party, Or you might say that you are the one that really gets the party going, you know, that your mates really look up to you to be the fun guy, the guy that who's always having a joke and always having a laugh, right? I was that guy. I was the guy who would neck back a pint of Strongbow blackcurrant and puke it back in the pint and drink it again. I was a guy who would strip all my clothes off and run down the street bollock naked. That was me, right? The joker. And that becomes part of your status, your personality. And if your ego gets involved, you kind of like it. And you definitely don't want to decrease that status by suddenly not drinking if you think that the alcohol is some sort of magical elixir that is making you funnier, right? And it's not. It definitely isn't. I mean, I went out on the other night, Saturday night, to watch England versus Spain with my friend Chris. Chris was drinking. I wasn't drinking. All right. We laughed our socks off all night because Chris is a funny guy. Now, stick me in a room with someone who's not a funny guy, then it doesn't matter how funny I am or how many drinks I've had. I'm never going to have a good laugh or make that guy laugh. You need the chemistry within connections of people in order for humor to work, right? It's like football. You play right midfield, your mate's playing right fullback, and there's a connection. He just knows where you are on the football pitch, right? He just knows you're going to make that run. And it's the same when you get a really good deep connection with a friend. You're in the pub and your one-liners are boom, 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 boom. And it's like a Ricky Gervais show. You're just bonding really well. That has nothing to do with alcohol, right? That has everything to do with deep connections that you've forged and you've created with somebody. And if you drink alcohol, then you're weakening those connections. You're distancing yourself from reality. You're distancing yourself from your ability to intuitively connect with that guy or that girl, right? So, but I get it, why you think that, you know, I need to drink alcohol and without it, I'm just going to be this like social butterfly, right? So this is why people like Tony, they worry about being this new person, right? Now, what Brooke Castillo got me to see this week was really, really important. And it comes from the work, I've forgotten his name at the top. Beyond the, what's his name? I haven't got my Kindle with me. All right. It comes from the work of one of the really great authors that I've been reading a lot lately, okay? About how we can change who we are, okay? Sorry, can you hear my piano downstairs? That's my little girl playing. Liza! I'm doing a podcast. Please try not to play the keyboard. Sorry about that, folks. The amateurish hour of the truth about alcohol is just shining through right now. Okay, I've lost where I was. Okay, so back to Tony. What Brooke Castillo was saying was, it's really super important that we understand or create, I guess is the right word, the type of person we want to become. All right. Who do we want to be in the future? All right. We know who we've been in the past. We know who we are now, but we have no idea who we want to be in the future. And the future doesn't exist. It only exists in our mind as a concept. But we can create a future in our mind. And our mind doesn't know the difference between us physically experiencing that future or us thinking that future, right? So, and this has been proven, mind, with athletes. If you just get like a 100-meter sprinter, for example, and you wire him up and he's sat there with his eyes closed, meditating, really going through it in his brain that he's running 100 meters, the same kind of light bulbs are going off in his brain, in his neural pathways, as if he physically did it, right? His brain doesn't know that he hasn't actually physically done it. So that is the power of our thought has, right? So Brooke is saying that we should figure out who we want to be in the future. We should figure out who that is, because that is really helpful. Because we figure out who that is, then we know what we're aiming for. Okay, I think that's really important. Now, I said to Tony, don't think to yourself that you're gonna, like, there's an old Tony or a new Tony. That's not what's happening. What's happening here is when you went from a child to a teenager, you had a decision to continue living this wonderful life of love and fun and games and just doing what any kid does. Like, you hear my daughter just bashing away on a keyboard downstairs. She's sick at the moment. She'll be happy as Larry. She'll be snorting and coughing and splutting, but she's happy as Larry, right? Because she knows what it's like to be human. She knows who she is. She knows how to have fun. But then she'll become a teenager and she'll be given an option to continue doing what she's doing or to fit in with the rest of society. Or more accurately for her, the little tribe of people whom she feels it's important that she gets involved with. And very often when we're coming into our teenage lives, we are sacrificing who we really are and who we are supposed to become. And we start wearing these masks and we start hiding who we truly are. We're afraid to be who we truly are. We don't want to take the smoke of the cigarette or the weed, but we do it because we feel pressure to fit in. We don't want to have a drink really, but we do it because we feel pressure to fit in. We don't want to have sex on a first date, but we do it because we feel pressure to fit in. All right? There are so many things that we do and so many actions we take that we don't really want to do, or so many behaviors or so many values and beliefs that we lean on that we don't really want to lean on, because what is uppermost in our thoughts all the time is our status. And we don't want our status to drop. So we will fit in. A lot of people fit in. And the ones who don't fit in, by the way, they have a fucking terrible time through teenage years, because they get picked on, they get bullied, nobody wants to be their friend, everyone's having a go at them, all right? But later on in life, they're the creative geniuses that change the world, okay? I was the type of person who needed to fit in. I desperately needed to be liked. And for many, 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 many years, I sold myself to the devil, all right? I just did what I thought I had to do to make friends and be cool, all right? And I'm not like that now. It took me until I was 35 to not be like that. But I didn't become a new person. I just rediscovered who Lee was. Now, once I rediscovered who Lee was and who Lee was always meant to be, who I really am, the authentic me is, a good example is, I always thought that I was a mad extrovert, and I used to be ashamed that anyone would ever consider me to be an introvert. I have huge introvert qualities or parts of me being introvert. I can be an extrovert when I want to be. I could be an extrovert right now when I'm doing this podcast, but I would say I'm 70-30 introvert extrovert. Now I've really discovered who I truly am. Okay. Now, once you've discovered who you are, like, and not drinking alcohol helps you discover who you not are, because the fog lifts, and now all of a sudden you can start to think, you can start to ask questions, you can start to understand whether you even, what your values are that you're living by, and whether or not they're the right ones or not, right? All things like that, your beliefs and your worldview and your culture and your ideology, you can start questioning those things when you start drinking, because you just think differently. You start to be more of a philosopher, right? And then when those things happen, you realize, oh, boom, this is who I am. Now you know who you are. You can project who you are, because you're only just starting to learn who you are. You can project that learning into the future in your mind. So this is the person who I am becoming. Now let's finish that jigsaw. How do I want to think? How do I want to look? Do I want to look old and wrinkly, fat and bloated? Do I want to look thin and healthy? Do I want to live long and be healthy in my later years? Do I want to have a beautiful wife or a husband? Do I want to be a great father? What does that look like to be a great father? Do I want to be a great friend? Yes. Do I want to have great friends? What do they look like? Yeah. What do I want my social life to be like? If we're worried about it, what do we want it to be like so we're not worried about it? And we think about who we want to become, but we don't wait until we become that person. We become that person now, in the moment, in our everyday speech, in our everyday thought patterns, and in our everyday actions. So we don't say, I'm worried about who the new Tony is going to be. You say, I know who the new Tony is going to be, and I am him right now. I am him right now. Okay? And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Because here's the thing. If you set a vow to become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, and you have an ideal view of what that person looks like, and that view is someone who is a deeply loving person, who lives by some real wonderful core values, who is a fantastic husband, a fantastic father, who has a multi-million-dollar business, who is healthy and fit, who is making all the right choices, who is cutting down on his bad habits. If you have that fixed out there, okay, if you have that fixed and you visualize that on a daily basis through your meditations, then I am telling you now, your subconscious mind will be working towards you achieving that goal. It will happen, okay? This, to me, is what the law of attraction is all about. The law of attraction to me isn't, I'm going to think I want a Ferrari. 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 And you get a Ferrari. That's not the law of attraction to me. The law of attraction to me is visualizing who you really want to be, or visualizing that you really, really, really want a Ferrari, okay? And then your subconscious mind, while you're in your conscious mind getting on about your time. I'm in my conscious mind right now doing this podcast, right? So I'm here doing this podcast in my conscious mind. But while I'm doing it, my subconscious mind is working around behind the backgrounds, right? Throwing ideas to me, or drawing my attention to a poster that I might not have seen, or a TV show that I might not have looked at, or an Instagram post that I need to read that I wouldn't have because it's a guy who's a Ferrari owner. You know what I mean, right? What I'm saying is, if you put a picture out there that you want to be the fantastic Tony that you've always been before you started to wear the masks, then your subconscious will make that happen. Now, if that is true, and I wholeheartedly believe it is true, and it's definitely happened for me in my life, then what the fuck happens if you turn around and say to yourself, I'm really worried about who the new Tony's going to be? Because if you're really worried about who the new Tony's going to be, or who the new Mike's going to be, or who the new Jennifer's going to be, then you can only, whilst you're making that statement, your subconscious is forming a picture of who that new person is, armed with all the reasons why you're not going to want to be that person. So you're going to start to see in your mind that you are not going to have any friends. You're going to start to see in your mind that you are going to be boring and lonely and depressed and anxious. You're going to start to see in your mind that you don't have a social life. You're going to start to see in your mind that you no longer go on bike rides with your friends, that you don't go into the pub anymore, and you never have sex with anybody because you're just boring. And that is what you will see when you start to worry about who this new person's going to be. And guess what happens? While you're just going on about your life, tapping in on Strive, listening to the Alcohol Addiction podcast, driving to work, and in your conscious mind, your subconscious is really battering away in the background, making that happen. And the number one way it will make you happen is it will form resistance. You will start to lay the groundwork of failure. You will start to disbelieve philosophies of people who have become people who don't drink alcohol. You will start to ignore their advice. You will start to not put in the work, because slowly but surely you are setting yourself up where you'll be able to turn around and drink and say, all of that was bullshit anyway. All of that was bullshit anyway. This is a classic example. I say to people all the time, right? if you want to quit drinking alcohol, and when you do that, you feel miserable, and you believe that alcohol made you feel happy in the first place, and you're only miserable because you don't drink alcohol, go back to drinking alcohol. Because this Strive movement is all about happiness. It's about happiness. It's not about quitting alcohol. It's about happy. It's about being happy. Because when we're being happy and joyful, we're going to have a really great life, and we're going to be really positive person for our children and stuff, right? So we need to be happy, all right? But that doesn't give you carte blanche, or a different way of putting this. Your resistance knows, okay? Your resistance knows that. Because your resistance will throw that line at you, okay? Your resistance will say, look, if the new Tone or the new Frank or the new Peter or the new Denise is going to be miserable, then I don't want to be that person. And then you will drink so you don't have to be that person. That, ladies and gentlemen, is outcome resistance. Outcome resistance. What does that mean? It means you fucking love alcohol. You never want to give up drinking in the first place. And now you're allowing your resistance to give you an excuse to go back to do what you love. And all power to you if that's what you want. But that is outcome resistance, okay? And the only way you can beat outcome resistance is by yourself understanding that it exists, hence the purpose of this podcast. So, to recap, okay, we need to start doing a lot of work around creating a vision of our future as somebody who doesn't drink alcohol in a real, powerful, and positive way. And not just up here. You need to feel it, okay? The body and the mind is one, right? We cannot separate this, okay? Joe Dispenza, right? That's the person that I was thinking about earlier, Dispenza. Dispenza always says in his books, right? You need to think about it, but you need to feel it. So when you're meditating about your future, don't just think how wonderful your life is. Feel. You have to turn your thought into a feeling. Okay? You need to feel how wonderful it's going to be to not drink alcohol, to not be controlled by this poison. You need to feel it. Once you feel it, then all sorts of different neurological connections start going on inside your mind, which then transmits to your gut and your heart and all of your body, right? It is the mind-body connection that we need to get right when we're envisioning our future, all right? And if you want a more eloquent version of what I just said, then listen to Brooke's podcast, all right? What episodes were they? Episodes 231, Who Are You Becoming? Episode 229, Alternate Futures. Episode 228, Unconscious Negativity. All really, really good podcasts. She's very, very, very intelligent, very, very learned individual. Let's hope we can get her on this podcast. Future Lee is calling out to future Brooke. Brooke Castillo will be on this show, ladies and gentlemen. She will, because I just thought it, and I just felt it, and it's going to happen. Boo, baby. Okay, until next week, take care of yourselves. Get any questions? Email me at leedavypoker@gmail.com. Bye-bye.